The Paper was released in 1994. It is directed by Ron Howard and stars Michael Keaton, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close and Marisa Tomei. It is written by David Coep, and it is a film that I have been meaning to get back to for quite some time. I remember seeing this on TV late one night, back when I was probably about 16, 17, and I loved it at the time, and it always stuck with me. But it's one of those films that I've kind of feared going back to in case it doesn't quite live up to my expectations or my memories of it. And yeah, it's got a middling score on like Letterboxd, things like that. So that would suggest it's not quite as well loved as I would have expected it to have been. But with some trepidation, I went back to it. I thought it was time. And I gotta say, it holds up. It holds up to my memory of it. I think this is a really great film. This feels like the film that Aaron Sorkin never wrote. It's got a very, if you're a fan of Aaron Sorkin, if you like The West Wing, things like that, I think you'll love this film. It feels very much in the vein of Aaron Sorkin. I wouldn't be surprised if he had been a ghostwriter on this, quite frankly. But yeah, it has that very fast pace, kind of witty dialogue, people walking and talking, and it's just... It feels very Sorkin-esque. The story revolves around this newspaper and this man, this husband and wife, who are they both work for the paper, but the wife is now pregnant and she's dealing with the pregnancy, but also dealing with the loss or the potential loss of her career, whilst her husband is still working at the paper and his career seems to be going places. So there's that kind of divide there. Can that separate them? Is that going to cause issues? And in the meantime, a story breaks and it kind of leaves options on the table to either pursue that story in a moral way, to seek the truth, or to just go with what's going to sell at the time, damn the consequences. And then you've got this character played by Michael Keaton. He's the main character, and he's the truth seeker. He's the one he really wants to get this story right. And then you've got Glenn Close, who's more kind of like your business-headed person. She's just trying to think of the bottom line. She needs to make sure the paper gets out, and that they don't lose money and that kind of thing. And yeah, so those two become at loggerheads. But you've also got husband and wife kind of fighting it out because he's not spending time with the wife. So you've got all these dynamics going on. And in amongst all that, each of the little supporting characters have all their own things going on. As I say, very kind of labyrinthine, Sorkin-esque, character-driven piece. Very talky film. But I was really engaged with it. I really liked it. I would say the last 10, 15 minutes maybe wraps everything up a little bit too neatly, and characters are never truly bad in this. Like even the bad guys in it, the people who like you kind of want to hate them a bit, they get their kind of redemptive streak towards the end. So like I say, in that respect, it's wrapped up a bit too neatly. There's no rough edges left. But I'm okay with that in a kind of Frank Capra-esque kind of way. I think this is filmmaking that harkens back to Capra-type filmmaking. It's a Wonderful Lifestyle of movie making that wants to take a more positive slant on the world. And I think it's something that we're sorely missing today, quite frankly. I think a film like this is something of an antidote to today's kind of mentality, in which everything seems to be, everything has to go down the toilet. Everyone's got a rough edge and everyone's got a dark streak, and that, and it's fine. There's plenty of films that deal with that stuff that I like, but I do also think there's a place for a film like this that deals with some issues that can get dark, can get go places that create conflict, but ultimately show that most people do want to be good, do want to do the right thing, do want to make the world a better place. So yeah, it's a feel-good film. It has some good things to say about marriage and about women's roles and men's roles in that marriage. And I think there's some ideas in here that a lot of people today might take offence to, because the film does suggest, I think, that a woman would be happier raising the baby. And I'm not, look, I don't want to get into a big thing about that. I know women have careers, they're entitled to have careers, this, that and the other. But there is a scene towards the end, because obviously this character played by Marisa Tomei, she's struggling with this idea that she might not get her career back afterwards. And it's only when she has the baby that her mentality starts to change a bit. Like, she's kind of stopped caring about that stuff as much. And I think a lot of people would look at that today as this kind of patriarchy kind of being forced onto women, to look at that as that, well, that's our role, we've got to go home and be... I don't think it's that way at all. I think it's a reality for a lot of women that, you know, that it's just a case. And I think it's worth exploring. I like seeing it on film, and I'm sure many women out there would as well. It's just one side of the spectrum that I think is worth being out there. It's worth being represented, so to speak. So yeah, for me, I really enjoyed this film. The performances across the board are really great. Michael Keaton's fantastic. He's really funny in places. Even Glenn Close as well is able to bring warmth to this character, who throughout most of the running time is quite, I wouldn't say despicable, not truly villainous, but she's got a lot of darker aspects to her. She's a bit too career-minded. She's kind of chasing things that perhaps she shouldn't be chasing, and you just think she starts to become a character that you want to dislike. But she manages to put certain spins on her that make her not be a mustache twirler. You know, she's a human character. You can see why she's fighting the fights that she's fighting. And again, being a woman in a predominantly male kind of oriented profession, so to speak, you can see where she's come, or how she's come to the place that she's come to. So she's never truly villainous, which again, I like. It's a more well-rounded character. Robert Duvall as well, ever reliable Robert Duvall. I don't think I've ever seen Robert Duvall in anything and not liked him, to be honest. Yeah, he's great here as the newspaper chief. He's the guy in charge of the newspaper, making the big decisions. He has this subplot where he's dealing with cancer, as well as trying to reunite with his estranged daughter. And again, that's all handled pretty well. And I just again, I like seeing the performances. When you give actors characters to play with that have a lot of meat, have a lot of places to go emotionally, it's a pleasure to watch those actors, great actors, doing a great job. So The Paper for me is a really good film. As I say, very solid drama, cracking performances, brilliantly written. And yeah, if you want a feel-good movie, check it out. If you have seen it, I would like to know what you thought about it. Do leave your comments on the film down below. Also, do check out my Patreon and membership programs to find out how you can support this channel and what you get in return. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.